Hey, welcome to the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke,
I'm Griffin.
and we are back again with another episode, here to talk about a movie that came out earlier this year, Freaky Tales, which the name is not nearly as freaky as you'd
No,
think the movie would be, actually. It's more of an anthology about underdogs, really, with this supernatural force in 1987's Oakland, California, and follows four different stories. The first one is about some punk rockers fighting neo-Nazis. The second is about some aspiring female rappers in a rap battle against a local icon. The third is about a hitman trying to leave his past behind, and the fourth revolves around a basketball player involved in a home invasion, which isn't all that freaky, to be honest.
no, it really isn't. The name kind of lies
Yeah,
in a way.
it comes up once though, I think. Like they say the name of the movie eventually, because why wouldn't they?
What
But
are we, some kind of freaky tales?
okay. But yeah, we're here to talk about that movie. I think it's actually pretty good. I remember wanting to watch it when it came out. Never got around to it because I don't think the AMC in Mattoon or Champaign had it at that time. And then, as I'm sure I've mentioned before, the AMC in Mattoon is closed, but they're reopened now. They are cinemas, so if you're around the area and you want to go check it out, Griffin can vouch for it.
Jamestown Ragged Peak.
Expect a review on that at some point, probably.
Yep.
All right. Initial thoughts. What are we thinking?
Initial thoughts. I've always had mixed feelings about anthology storytelling. Weapons, I thought did it kind of well. This movie, it also takes four different stories and it tells them, and they're all interconnected, just like with weapons as well. I feel like this movie kind of takes like Pulp Fiction and Scott Pilgrim and just kind of combines the two in a way. Like it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to think of it.
Yeah,
I didn't piece it together that way.
Neither did I. Looked at Letterboxd reviews, but after looking at those Letterboxd reviews, it kind of made sense to me. Like, oh yeah, no, there's definitely you know elements of both present.
Yeah, for me, I do think overall it's a good movie and it does a lot of the basics right and kind of gets the aesthetic right of the era, I guess you could say, or the year.
Yeah,
But there are a couple nonsensical things that happen, and I don't know, it just feels out of place at times, is the best way to explain that. I'm not going to get into it yet because I've never liked a movie, but I want to talk about a little bit some of the things that I do like. Mainly for the cinematography, I really like the aspect ratio and the animations. There's
yes,
that first, I don't know what the numbers are for it, but I know the first story, I guess,
yeah.
is more of a box shaped
Four
as
4:3, I think 4:3 ratio. I think that's what it's called.
yeah, you'd
I
have
could
the
be
numbers
very
on that.
wrong.
Yeah, you'll
It's
have
like
the numbers.
16:9 is like what it's like what's most common, like what this podcast is, but like 4:3 is more common in older movies.
Yeah, I don't have any of the numbers on that, but the first one's more
Those are the only two I know.
the first one's more of a square, and the later and subsequent ones are more of a rectangle. That's just a simple way to put it. Someone will get mad at me for not knowing, be like, "How do you not know that?" Probably you after the episode. But anyway, uh, in addition to that, there's also these like chalk animations and 2D animations that
Yeah.
show up in between stories.
And I think that's kind of where like the Scott Pilgrim influence kind of comes in, because like if I recall correctly, the that movie had some of those kind of elements.
Yeah, it definitely did. I didn't piece it together that way. I do think the animations are nice. They're not over the top, but they're not too underutilized to where it's just like, why did you even add it in the first place? I think they have a nice time and place. And speaking of nice time, I do like watching the actors in this as well.
Yeah.
I do think everybody does it well, from names that I'm not as familiar with, such as Ji Young Yu as Tina, who's one of the first characters we meet, or some more recognizable names from Dominic Thorne as Barbie to Pedro Pascal's Clint. And I know there's a critique out there among modern cinema that
Modern
there we go.
cinema.
Modern cinema, the Pedro Pascal is just in everything. And to a certain degree, I can understand it. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, pretty damn good actor. So like, I
Hard
let it
not to
slide.
include him. I mean, You did really good in Fantastic Four, and I think you did good in this movie too.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna get too into Fantastic Four because I could talk forever. But he did
Yeah.
surprise me as Reed. I was not on board until I watched it. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Pedro I don't think is a problem in this movie. I think he's one of the stronger actors. But that's not to say that anybody really does bad in this movie. I think everybody does a good performance. Uh, and I mentioned earlier, but the aesthetic is really well matched from the costumes to the colors. It really captures that 80s vibe.
It's very aesthetically pleasing. Just like as you said, like the colors, like just the way it's kind of like shot in the beginning. It's very reminiscent of the 80s. All the colors, the fashion. I'm not a fashion guy, but I would assume the fashion matches the 80s pretty well. Uh, it just like I think like some of the hairstyles, like some of the younger actors had, kind of matched.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the music also is kind of mainly where maybe the freaky part of the tales comes in because it has in the score this kind of Halloweeny type vibe. It's not necessarily like the spooky, eerie horror music, but it's not full fledged like spooky, scary
Right.
skeletons piano either. It's kind of a weird mix of like a thriller beat almost. I don't know if that's the right way to explain it, but that's kind of how I view it, where it's on par of that fun Halloween vibe.
Yeah, it's not like grim Halloween music like the Halloween theme or just any horror movie theme really. It's just kind of like it's a good mix, I feel.
Yeah, and it capitalizes. I can't speak. I'm so sorry. It capitalizes on the A's synthwave kind of vibe as well.
Yeah.
There's some of that electronic beat in there and melodies, which is nice to see.
Sort
The
of reminiscent to Tron. Maybe not quite.
I wouldn't
Maybe
say not
my
quite.
vibes
Maybe not
really off,
quite.
but
Although I will say there was one scene where I was like, man, this feels like Daft Punk. So I'll give it some credit. There was one scene that kind of felt like
which scene was that?
it was towards the end, I think. I can't remember the exact scene. I didn't write it down. It was a quick thought and then it was gone. Um,
That the
but
scene with the Metallica music was peak, I will say that.
yeah, that's kind of where my one of my complaints comes in.
Yeah,
Not the
with that.
Metallica, not the Metallica.
The Metallica.
That scene was great. It's more so just the use of the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack is very nice between balancing out a bunch of different 80s songs
Right.
and they're all good. They're all bangers. None of them miss. It's just they don't really kick in until the fourth story. I feel like
Yeah.
the soundtrack's underutilized until that point because anything up until that is like scene or music from the concerts really or the score. So the soundtrack kind of being shoved all into the last what
Right.
20 30 minutes feels a
So
little odd.
the first story, it's like all that concert or like the rave they're all at, and then like the second one, it's the like the main music's like the rap battle. Third mu third music kind of comes to like the mixtape that's handed to what's his face, Pedro Pascal's character,
Yeah,
Clint. Yeah, and the fourth story kind of utilizes like the soundtrack way more.
yeah. And I think the audio also just in general in this movie has some weird stuff going on where it's not really mixed well. I don't think. There's a couple scenes where it randomly just dips in sound level
Uh-huh.
and then randomly comes back, but it's not like a thematic thing where anything relevant to cause that's happening. It just does. So I don't know what the point of that is. And it just kind of takes me out of what I'm watching for a minute where I'm like, okay, I can hear it, but now I'm muffled underwater for a minute and a half and then I'm back. It's just a weird
Yeah.
off-putting thing.
Um, so like for the cinematography, like it kind of goes from like in part one, you kind of go from like a handheld sort of cinematography because it's like the first two stories are kind of connected together with the people, but like it's like you're following the characters everywhere they go. Whereas more like the third and fourth stories are more like they're more like shot on tripods, not as much handheld. And I do think it kind of works for those stories. I'm always a fan of handheld because it kind of makes you feel like you're there with the characters as you're watching the movie.
Yeah, and I think having the different styles of filming with those cameras helps separate the stories from each other so they don't feel the exact same as one
Right.
another.
Yeah.
It gives each story in the anthology its own unique style and personality to help stand out from the others.
Right.
I will say though, for the four stories we have, the third and fourth stories I don't really vibe with as much.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
that's kind of an overall thing I have. Like, I like where the stories are going, but I feel like the tone of the movie overall is very inconsistent.
Can
That's
you
kind of what
elaborate
I,
more?
yeah, sure, sure. It's like with the first story, like you got all like the punk kids fighting neo-Nazis, and it's like there's animations on the side, it's kind of handheld, it's shaky, it's moving around a lot. And then you get to like the third and fourth stories, and they're like a lot more serious. Like they're still connected, which is, hats off to them, but like at the same time, like the tone's just like very different, and I don't know if that really worked for me because it's like it was kind of set up to be like on a more not lighthearted, but like a less serious side. And it's just like,
Less serious than they're fighting neo Nazis in the first one.
well, I mean, like everyone's kind of going like wham, pow, pow, and like,
Yeah, okay,
like
I'll give you that. There's like the Scott Pilgrim comedy to
right.
the action. I can understand.
It goes from like Scott Pilgrim type comedy to just being like, this guy shot my wife. Spoilers.
Yeah,
And then the tone is just very inconsistent, I feel.
yeah. For me, I feel like the reason that stories three and four don't hit as well is not even really about the tone. I was able to separate the tone from each other and be fine with it.
Yeah.
So for me, it worked. But it was mainly just about the content of the story itself. Story three, dealing with the what mercenary assassin, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call him. He's trying to get out basically of his killing work. I've seen this trope to death. I didn't see anything really new of substance.
Man wants to escape his past.
Yeah, it's a lot of that where it's like, oh, I've done some shady shit in my time. I've killed some people.
Yep.
I want out. And like,
More
uh,
horrible shit continues to happen to me.
yeah, like I've seen all that before.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh no, this tragic, terrible personal thing just happened to me. But I want out anyway, so I'm going to buy my way out, but not before trying to end it all. But
Then a
him do,
mixtape comes in and saves my
yeah,
life.
I don't know. Story three, as much as I like the acting in it, especially some of the cameos that I guess not cameos, the more guest appearances, really.
Yeah.
The more guest appearances that we get from some higher name actors that I'm not gonna name for the sake of the viewers getting to enjoy that random appearances.
It's like the guy who plays the video store guy. I found that scene pretty funny. I will give them credit there where credit's due.
Yeah, that scene was enjoyable to watch, kind of the funny banter between him and
Clint and the
Clint.
video guy,
Yeah,
video store guy.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Story three just felt kind of cliche. It felt like something I've seen and heard before and didn't really add anything new to that kind of trope. So I didn't feel like I was gaining anything. And then story four is just kind of, like I said earlier, out of place.
Yeah.
It fits in the context of everything and ties different stories together and whatnot. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's more so that, like, this green lightning stuff that's present throughout the whole film just ran.
On that too.
Yeah, I've got a deep thought on it too, so don't you worry. But it just randomly shows up and then lets this man instantly win in the most mystical and unreasonable or unrealistic way that I could possibly think of. And so then I leave the scene just thinking, why? Like, this movie has a lot of grounded aspects to it prior to that, and then just randomly throws in mystical bullshit go. And I don't vibe with that.
Right.
And I think Weapons did something similar in how I was kind of harping on
With the
Ant-Glass.
witchcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I too kind of just with like the overall fantasy element of the movie. It's just like the Green Lightning's like never really that important to the story. Like you never see it in the third story. And it's kind of mentioned briefly in one and two, but then it's like it's just like irrelevant for the entire movie, and then it just like appears in the fourth act, and then it's just like, oh, it allows me to be super strong and donut punch a guy through the stomach. It's like it just doesn't fit, I feel, until like the end when it makes sense to put it in there.
Yeah, since we're on the topic of the Green Lightning, that's kind of what my deep thought revolves around. We're going to go ahead and jump into that right quick. where the question is just what even is this green lightning that shows up? Because for
Right.
me, at first, I kind of thought it was an indicator of an underdog because this movie really is about that, where each character that possesses said green lightning is kind of usurping somebody else
Yeah.
and playing into that underdog role. And I'm behind it and with it for that because then it's like, oh, there's no real like actual meaning to anything. You can have some of that whimsy with it, where it's just like, oh, hey, something about to some underdog shenanigan is about to happen, right? But then story four completely subverts that and it's just like, okay, this mystical force actually exists. Here it is. Here's it in a complete effect and as gruesome as it could possibly be.
Hmm.
And I don't really vibe with that. I kind of liked it more as just a subtle indicator of an
Right.
underdog than anything, and that's kind of how I viewed it. What about you?
It kind I feel like the whole thing it just kind of ties in with like the how inconsistent the tone is and just like the overall inclusion. I can't talk either. Don't worry. The overall inclusion of the green lighting, like it's subtle in like the other scenes, sure. Like in the third story, you can see like the lightning passing from Clint to the younger guy that he has a brief scuffle with.
Yeah,
Um, and it's like the underdog's moving from him to the other guy, and like it works there. And then as you said in the fourth act, it's just like, oh, give him a bunch of magical powers. Go do a funny thing with magical powers. Well, I mean, he's get murdering a bunch of people, so I
yeah,
wouldn't
and
call that funny, but still.
the thing that sucks with that is like story four is pretty rad. Like if you
It,
just take it
yeah,
out of the story context and stop thinking about it critically, it's kind of on par with like I don't know how to explain it other than
it's
John Wick meets Kill Bill.
it's good. It just doesn't really fit in with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it feels out of place. I'm like, there's no shot he's doing that, but like I kind of vibe with it at the same time. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's a weird flavorful flair thing. That's a lot of buzzwords that probably don't mean anything, but like it's just cool to watch. But there's no real tangible aspect to it as opposed to other stories with some of the social commentary that those deal with where story one has these neo-Nazis.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's a real thing that's still out there in the world, so dealing with the
Dealing.
representation of that, I guess the second story having a lot of racism and sexual harassment going on, which is still present today,
Right.
unfortunately. Story three doesn't have as much, I don't think.
Not as much. Yeah, no, definitely not as much, but it's still got some themes that might be kind of relevant.
Maybe like underworld crime, shady.
Kind
I
of
don't know.
escaping your past.
Yeah, it talks about that, and then story four, I don't even know if it deals with anything other than a burglary. So like, yeah, it's
Gaining magical powers and killing a bunch of neo-Nazis.
it's out of place for sure, and I think that's a good way to explain most of the movie. Like, I still think it's good, but out of place is probably the best way to describe what Freaky Tales is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all the notes I had written down. So, Griffin, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I didn't really have. I didn't really have much else. I mean, kind of talked about the characters. I didn't. I didn't really have too much else to.
You good? Do you think we're ready for ratings then?
I think we're ready for ratings.
All right, quick episode this week, guys, but don't worry, it's all right. Griffin, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I'm thinking, all things considered, given the tone of the movie and like just kind of how out of place the episodes felt to each other, I'm glad like they're able to like interconnect them, but at the same time, it's just like the themes didn't work. I feel like the movie kind of prioritizes like style over substance and in some fashion. Uh, but overall, like the world building's good, but like sometimes the stories just didn't feel very consistent. I think for that, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
Hang on, that didn't work. There we go.
Yay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of the movie. I mean, like I said, out of place is a good way to describe it. I still like it. I think it's good for an enjoyable watch. It just kind of fails in some of the storytelling, namely in stories two and three. Some of the soundtrack's kind of underutilized. I don't know if I vibe with the decisions on what the green lightning always is, but I do like the actors a lot. I
Yeah.
love their performances. I love the guest appearances a lot as well. Cinematography, is nice and varied. So each anthology story has its own flair to it and style. But yeah, I do think it kind of slips off in some of the storytelling and plot aspects. So for that, I think I'm gonna go with a 3.5 out of 5.
All right. I think yeah, that's a fair rating too. I mean, I think you gave it a little bit more grace than I did, so it's like
That's
that
what
kind of makes
Pedro
sense.
Pascal does to me.
Yep. Okay.
Fun fact though, this is the first time since Griffin's been a co-host that I have rated a movie higher than him.
Yep. We've either tied ratings or I've rated higher than him.
Because
That's
I've
insane.
never liked a movie
And
until now.
and I liked this one slightly less than him, so good job, Luke.
Thank you, but you know what? I'm gonna applaud myself for that. But yeah, short and sweet episode this week. Nothing crazy. Freaky Tales is kind of short anyway. There's not
That's
a huge amount of substance to it.
as I kind of mentioned.
Yeah, not a lot of substance to it. But yeah, we will not be back next week with an episode because it's Thanksgiving break.
Thanksgiving.
So we will be gone eating turkey and eating good.
Cranberry sauce. I make it every year.
You good? You make cranberry sauce?
I do, yes. With cranberries, yeah.
That's gotta taste so good, man. But yeah. Until 2 weeks from now, I'm Luke,
I'm Griffin.
and we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.